continuing on with our talk about racism,
Mm-hmm.
I think we should both share kind of the experiences we've had firsthand with racism. Personally, for me, I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
Um, I have always felt very left out when it comes to being in a group of black women. It seems to me that it's very exclu- ex- exclusionatory, if that's a word. Um, and that comes from working in the nursing homes. That's been my main experience. We, most of the aides in the nursing homes I've worked at have been black women. So the white ladies were the majority, or the minority, and as far as CNAs go. And it just seemed that they were clannish, actually, and the white CNAs had to beg for help when they needed it. But when the black CNAs needed help, it was all good. They were buddies, they were friends, but the rest of us were kind of just like the aliens. We weren't we weren't treated the same way, and that really it bothered me, and it actually really hurt me because I've always gone out of my way to make sure that I am very inclusive with everybody around me. So I never really expected that reverse racism would touch me. So that's my main experience. So what do you got?
Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to comment on your experience.
Okay.
And you're not the first white woman to tell me that they just don't feel like they relate to black people. I remember knowing an older white woman, and she was telling me, I talked with her all the time, and I remember it was a job I had back in college, and she was very friendly, would give me rides home and all. And she was telling me she'd never really been close with a black person. And it was not because she didn't want to be, it was because, in a sense, she wasn't allowed to be.
Exactly.
And
How I felt.
I really think that that's really a wrong attitude to have because, I mean, I've seen that before, like within groups of women, that, if a white person comes around, they're suspicious. Like they may think, oh, this so-called white person is here to do me in, or you can't trust her, you can't trust white people, and that's like a really sad stereotype to carry because, I mean, you never know when you're going to need help from someone. And that's just pretty much what I wanted to say on that. You're not the first person that I've heard that from.
But it also feels almost. I think a lot of black women or black people in general have heard the comments from white people so many times, like, I'm not racist. I have lots of black friends. Well, if you have to point out the fact that you have lots of black friends and you're not racist, chances are that you are racist.
Yeah, especially if you can't find them. It's like, yeah, I've got lots of black friends, like where they're at. It's like, oh, they're around here somewhere.
Right. And I've never presented like that to a group of black females because I've always strived for acceptance because of just my own personal self-esteem issues at those points in my life. So I've never made such comments to where suspicion should be put upon me.
Right.
So.
And I'll tell you some of the most memorable experiences that I had. I can think back to being in school settings. I've always been, like, I guess a cautious person. Most people that know me or knew me back when I was younger would say that I was very quiet, I didn't talk much or anything like that. And, being in school settings when, let's say I'm in a classroom and I'm called upon and I get like the perfect answer. When I was a kid, that was like the norm. But like in high school, when I was away from like familiar teachers and people who know me, they'd be like flabbergasted, like, "Wow, where did that come from?"
Oh,
Like,
a black person was smart enough to answer the question.
yeah, like, what was I supposed to do? Open my mouth and be like a dummy or something like that?
Right.
And I remember, other situations where like I'd be in a strange group of people, and I'm not saying this like when I go out I expect these reactions because I pretty much try to be myself.
Right.
And I remember going up, to play. I'm a musician, I play piano, and I remember seeing some familiar faces out in the audience, like when I got on stage, like they were like, oh, rolling their eyes or whatever, and whenever I got done, they were like, oh my God, she did well. Like they were
See,
expecting
that
me,
had to,
yeah,
I mean, that had to hurt, even though, it's nothing personal. It's,
yeah,
I can't believe ignorance.
yeah. That I mean, and just like preconceived notions. I mean, that people would have, and I would say, like as a young adult, especially like I'd say later years in high school, and some of my college years, I experienced that from mostly my peers. And I mean, that was kind of a hurtful thing. Oh wow, she's good. And it's like, well, if I weren't good, I shouldn't be here.
Right.
Yeah, it's like I didn't just come here to take up space or to decorate the surroundings.
Which I'm sure you did decorate this room.
Oh, thank you. And I'll tell you one of the most memorable forms I had. This was a few years ago. I think I was probably about like 24, 25. I went up for an audition in a play. And this result shocked, like, I guess you would say this situation just shocked me so much, I didn't even know how to react to it. Because my reaction, like, when I was over the initial shock, was like, oh my God, it's like people are like that. And when I went up for this play, it was for a European production. And the director made a big announcement when all the people got together and said that since this story took place in X time period and all that type of thing, this is going to be like the main roles are going to be reserved for the Caucasian people. If you are ethnic, that there's not going to be a big role for you. We'll have plenty of small roles, but basically, she said in a nutshell, we don't need anybody that looks ethnic. We need Caucasian people. And the whole time, I ended up not auditioning for it. I had I had other things that kept me from it, and I probably wouldn't have auditioned for it. And I just walked out of there, and when I was driving home, I was like,
Because when she said
yeah.
ethnic, what she really wanted to say was, we don't need black people.
Or not even necessarily black people, because when I looked around, it was a mixed group, and it was ethnic looking Asian people there, ethnic looking Hispanic people there, and there may have even been ethnic looking Indian people there. And I was just driving home in shock, and I was like, okay, I can understand if this is Hollywood and you want to do an accurate portrayal for something in that time period, and I would understand that if you want it to be accurate, of course you're going to need people that look like people in that time period to represent that. But to do something for the community that's supposed to be for everybody, where's the inclusion at?
Exactly.
And excuse me. At the same time, I remember talking with my uncle about a matter, and he was telling me you don't have to shop with these people, and he's right. And I just want to say for anybody experiencing, those type of things, like if you go up for whatever it is, a job or whatever you're trying to get, and you experience that, you don't have to put up with that. This isn't. I mean, I'm not even going to say that. I was going to say this isn't the 50s or the 60s. I mean, you have a choice.
Right.
You don't have to feed into that and let these people win. Go somewhere else.
Right.
Don't give them that benefit of the doubt to say, oh, we may have something better for you, but right now we're just going to give you a second-rate part because we only need a certain type of person.
But why not push though? Why not push?
True.
They say we want this type of person. Basically, we want this color person.
Right.
Now, I don't know how that relates to, was it a community or a college?
It was a community.
I don't know if that's even legal
Well,
for them to do that. So why not say, hey, wait a minute.
I think when it comes to small private organizations, I don't know legally if they can do that or not with them being a private organization.
Right.
So that's a good question. I mean, I was just like so shocked. I was like, I'm just gonna just get away from here. I don't want to be a part
Well,
of
you have to
that.
pick your battles.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to something like a job, and that they are specifically hiring one type of person,
Right.
Personally, of course, I don't have to deal with that. I have white privilege. I'll be the first to admit that, and it's not something I'm proud of. I I don't want to own that. But if I was a ethnic person,
Mhm.
I'd like to think I would say, wait a minute, no, and actually push the fact and take it to another level to, make an example, I guess.
True.
Don't screw with me. I'm a person, I'm intelligent, and I know what my rights are. So,
That actually kind of makes me think of quotas, and a lot of people, a lot of minorities think that quotas are a good thing. When you said that, but at the same time, with a quota, I really think it should be basically like the person who can do the best job versus,
just talking about that the other day,
yeah.
too.
But I mean, the sad thing is, it's like a double-edged sword. You want people to have, like, you want everybody to get a chance, and if they take that away, what's not to say that they won't hire like people of all ethnicities.
Right. What is that? I can't recall the term for it, but it's when a certain number of slots in a company or a school must be filled by black people. Do you remember?
I don't remember that term. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. I actually met a lady a few years back that told me she was like, her new job was required to fill a quota so that they would have like an even amount of people racially staffed.
Right.
And to me, I found that offensive because I'm
I
like,
do
look,
too.
it's like if you're gonna hire me, I want to be hired because I can do the job right, not
Right.
just because hey, we need like a brown person here.
Right.
And I just don't think that's right.
Well, I think a lot of that could be avoided. Affirmative action. That's what it's called.
Yes.
Affirmative action.
Yeah.
By doing blind interviews. Um, Filling out your application. There's no race boxes. There's no ethnicity boxes. Um, Writing out your objectives and your goals in your education, and then being picked from that pool, and not giving them a chance, employers or colleges even a chance to say, oh, you're white or you're black.
Right.
Because I want people to be mixed, definitely, because that's, we're a society, we're a huge melting pot. But, in the same token, I don't think that X number of slots to this specific college should have to go to a minority.
Right.
It should be, who has the best grades, who is the best fit for the college, who's most qualified, regardless of race, religion, creed, whatever. So, and I know a lot of people will fight me on that because affirmative action, a lot of people agree with it.
Oh, I remember back when I took Western Civ when I was in college, and that was actually an essay question that I chose. We had essay questions to choose for a test. And I remember writing about, quotas and affirmative action, and I got an A on the paper. My teacher, really cool guy, he was a white guy. And I remember saying that a lot of, like, my own people would probably strongly disagree with me about this. But at the same time, it shouldn't be about the color of your skin. And as long as you're making it about the color of your skin, I mean, I think that's taking a step backwards.
Absolutely. It's a form of racism still.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think we'll see affirmative action done away with anytime soon.
I don't. And the sad thing about it, like I was saying, it's a double-edged sword. I think we're going to be screwed if they take it away. I really do.
That's likely, and I think a lot of it has to do with just society as a whole and our cultures.
Yeah.
And, the way different minority groups are held back by themselves, by their families, by the chances and opportunities they have living in the so-called ghettos and the inner city.
Right.
So that's the only positive I can see to the affirmative action, because they may never get a chance to get out of it, and if they don't see that they might be able to better themselves, they might just give up. So, double-edged sword.